Welcome to Write to Publish, your go-to podcast for all things writing and publishing. I'm Karen Stanley, a 14 times published author and the founder of Mabel and Stanley Publishing. Join me as I share a multitude of tips and insights drawn from my own writing and publishing journey. We'll be hearing from some inspirational authors too, who will share their writing experiences and top tips for success. Each week, we'll learn about an aspect of writing, from composition to genre and from publishing to marketing. Listen in as we learn and chat about all things writing and publishing, and let's get you on the right path.
Hello, welcome back to Write to Publish with me, Karen Stanley. And today's episode is for the authors who've done the hard thing. You've written the book, you've published the book, and now nothing much is happening. The sales are disappointing, the reviews are slow to come. You're starting to feel like maybe your book just isn't good enough. And I want to stop you right there, because in my experience, that conclusion is almost never the right one. Poor book sales are not usually about the quality of the writing. They're almost always about something fixable. So let's get into that and see how you can boost your sales and continue your success. So it may be, first of all, your cover might be doing the wrong job. This might sting a little bit, but if your book isn't selling, the first thing I would look at is the cover. Not because it isn't beautiful, it might be gorgeous, but is it doing the right job? Your cover has one job, to make someone who's never heard of you click on your book in a list of other books in their search results. That's it. So it needs to look professional. It needs to signal the genre or the type of book really crystal clearly. And it needs to stand out at thumbnail size, don't forget. Because on Amazon, your cover is roughly the size of a postage stamp. So what might look good in A5 size might look terrible in a small thumbnail. If your cover looks a bit homemade, or if it doesn't clearly signal what kind of book it is, readers will scroll past it without a second thought. Not because they didn't want your book, but because the cover didn't give them a reason to stop. So a professional cover design isn't a luxury, really. It's a fundamental part of publishing your book well. So if your sales have dropped and things aren't happening, take a look at your cover first. Second thing I'd look at, nobody can find it. The second, probably the most common culprit, is discoverability, or rather the lack of it. On Amazon, your book needs to be findable. That's the simple truth. And that comes down to three things: your categories, your keywords, and your book description. Or sometimes I call it the blurb. So categories, we touched on this in the bestseller episode. That's how Amazon knows where to shelve your book, where to put your book in their online bookshop. So if you've chosen really broad, competitive categories, you're just going to become invisible. If you've done the research and found categories that are relevant and achievable, your book's got a fighting chance. So keywords are the search terms people type into Amazon when they're looking for a book just like yours. They go into your KDP account when you publish, and most authors leave these as an afterthought. But the authors whose books sell, they treat this like the important piece of metadata that it actually is. So categories and keywords, you cannot underestimate them. It makes your book discoverable rather than the veritable needle in the haystack, shall we say. And then your book description. It's not your sales page. It's not a plot summary or a list of chapter titles. It needs to hook the reader, speak to what they will get from the book, fiction or non-fiction, and make them feel like it was written specifically for them. You're writing for an audience of one all the time, if you remember. If any of those three things aren't working, you're invisible to the very readers who would probably love your book. Now, this is a biggie. We've stopped talking about it. This is the one that comes up most often, and it's also the point that authors feel quietly defensive about, and that's understandable, I guess, because it feels quite personal. So most authors promote their book heavily around launch, understandably, and then they stop. So it's like they've opened the shop, put out the banners, and then they've shut the shop. The launch is done. It feels a bit weird to keep banging on about the same book, and the mentions get fewer and fewer until the book basically disappears from your content entirely. But here's the thing. Your audience is growing all the time. So the people following you today were not necessarily there at your launch. They haven't heard about your book. They don't know it exists. So talking about your book isn't being salesy. It is telling people that a helpful, useful, wonderful thing exists that might improve their life in terms of a great piece of fiction or their business. So think of it like you're doing them a service. You're telling them about something that they're going to love. You need to share it. You need to talk about it. You need to tell stories from it. Answer questions with it. Use it as a reference point in your content. Put character profiles or character dialogue or little quotes from your book. It's not a one-time event. It's an asset to your book, and it needs to be treated like one. So if your book isn't selling, you need to check the cover. You need to check the discoverability and check whether you're still talking about it. In most cases, at least one of those things will give you an answer. And the thing about talking about it, consistency is better than quantity over time. So 3 times a week consistently is better than a month of mad promoting and then nothing. So if you want an honest assessment of where you are, what's working and what's not, head to Karen@MabelandStanleyPublishing.com, send me a message and I will answer your questions, or we can book in a chat, or you can find out about working with me on the website MabelandStanleyPublishing.com. If this episode was useful, word of mouth is everything for a small podcast like ours. So I would really appreciate likes and shares. I'll see you all in a fortnight, I hope. Happy writing, everyone. Bye for now. Love to you all.